Hey everybody, today we're going to be solving some cubics. That means we got x to the cubed, x to the third power, and we do that by taking the cube root, as it says at the top of the paper there. And really the goal for the whole problem is to try to undo the problem. So I know this first problem has a times 4 in it. We're going to undo it. Carrie Underwood says it right there. So we're going to go ahead and do the opposite in all these problems. We're not going to minus 3 in the first problem. We're going to undo it. We're going to do the opposite. Thank you, Carrie Underwood. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and undo the first problem. I like to call it getting rid of the extra junk. We'll go ahead and add 3 to both sides there. And then we have our 4x cubed. And then we have, after we add 3, that's negative 108. Cool, our next step is to undo that times 4, and we'll go ahead and divide 4 there. And that leaves us with x cubed, and when we divide that by 4, negative 27. Feel free to grab your calculator there, I almost had to, but pretty good in mental math. And here's our last step. Can we go ahead and take the cube root? So that might be new to you. Go ahead and take the cube root. Cube root will cancel out the cubic, or the third root will cancel out the third power. That gives us x equals, and if you type in the third root of negative 27, you are allowed to do that. You are not allowed to take the square root of negatives, but you are allowed to take the cube root of negatives, and that would give you a negative 3 for the first problem. Cool, we're just going to go ahead and keep undoing, as Carrie Underwood reminds us for those problems. Number 2, we've got a decimal, but we're not worried about that. We're trying to get rid of that extra junk. Go ahead and get rid of that 1 there. Go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. We get 2.2. We still got our decimal, x cubed, and then we got 275 over there. Definitely going to grab a calculator as we go to divide this next part. Undo it. Divide that 2.2. And that gives us x cubed equals, calculator, 275 divided by 2.2 is 125. That's nice. It turned to a whole number. And then we take the cube root. Cube root will get rid of the cubic, or that third root will get rid of that third power. We have x equals, and we have the third root. You can get the third root on Desmos if you go to the function menu. If you are on a TI 83 or 84, you can head to the math menu and you'll see the cube root there. If you're on a red calculator, you can go ahead and type in the 3 and then the square root with the little X button, and that will give you the cube root. Cool. If we type in the cube root of 125 on any of those, it'll go ahead and give us a positive 5. You could plug it back into the original if you'd like, but we are good there. Cool. That's not the eraser. Let's see if that one is. There we go. Sweet. We will jump to our next problem, and we're just going to try to undo it. In this next problem, I cannot add 4 because that's not really a negative 4. That negative 4 is going to get cubed at some point. So it's not really a negative 4, so I can't add 4 right now. The stuff that's outside, away from the x, outside of the group, is that cubic. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that cubic right now by going ahead and taking the cube root to both sides. That cube root will cancel out that cubic. Third power cancels out the third root, and we get x minus 4 equal to the cube root of 8. If you type that in, that's a nice easy 2. We go ahead and solve the rest of the problem, undo it, add 4 to both sides. Woo! My iPad stand is taking a fall there. And we go ahead and add 2 plus 4. That's easy. We get x equals 6. Cool, we start to take on our challenge problems in the next row as we have some decimals, some negatives, some cubics, some things inside the group, some things outside the group. We're still just going to undo it. What's extra? What's the extra junk outside of the parentheses, away from that x? What do we want to get rid of, right? So in that first problem, we're going to go ahead and divide by 3 on both sides. I was grabbing my calculator so that I could type that in. But I'll still have the parentheses, I'll still have the cubic, and when I divide by 3, that gives me a negative 64. At this point, I can't get rid of the 5 that's inside the group, so I got to take care of the group. I can get rid of that group by taking that third root on both sides. Boom. And we bring down our equation with just an x plus 5. And the cube root, again, you can head to the math menu or Desmos functions. When you take the cube root of negative 64, that gives you a negative 4. And our last step is to subtract by 5 on both sides. We get x equals, and that is a negative 9. Cool, so we go ahead and we go to write our last problem here, and a little mental note, unlike the quadratics that we solved, which had 2 answers, these don't have 3 answers. When you cube a number, a positive number when you cube it is going to end up positive, and a negative number when you cube it is going to end up as a different number, as a negative, so there's no way to get the same answer. So we're not looking for 3 answers here. We're just looking to undo it, undo it, undo it. So in this last problem, we've got a handful of things that we got to undo. You can get rid of the 2 or the 4 first. I like to get rid of the 4. It's the extra junk. It's the least attached to the x. It's the furthest away. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way the rest of the way. Cool, 35 minus 4 is 31. And then we got a decimal at the end of that. Cool, my next step, there's a couple things that are outside of the parentheses. Right now I could divide by 2 on both sides. I could also take the cube root on both sides, but keep in mind if I do take the cube root, I would have to take the cube root of everything, and I don't know what the cube root of 2 is, and I don't think that's a nice number. So I'm going to try to get the 2 out of the way first and focus on that. Divide by 2, divide by 2. You got x plus 1, still got the cubed, 31.25 divided in half or divided by 2 is 15.625. I don't know if it seems like we're doing better or worse as we're getting more decimals, but hopefully the cubic will solve it for us when we get to that point, and right now is that point. That 3 is the only thing outside of the group, so that 3 is going to be our group with that third root and that big grouping symbol. That will cancel out, and it will get us our x plus 1. And here you're definitely going to need some Desmos. Again, at Desmos it's in the functions menu. I think you go all the way over to the side to miscellaneous. If you're on your phone, you can turn it sideways to find the cube root, but you kind of have to type it in a different order, so I don't really recommend that. I like Desmos. Or on your calculator, if you have the TI, you can go to the math menu or look for that root symbol with the little X on the edge. It's in the math menu, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to find the third root of 15.625. And it gives me a nice 2.5, so definitely simplify that a little bit. We go ahead and subtract 1 to undo it to finish off the rest of that problem. And we've got x equals 1.5. Cool. There you go. There's your 5 problems on solving cubics by taking the cube root. There's only one solution to all those problems. We're not looking for 2 answers like the x squared or like the quadratics. Taking the cube root will just help us solve those cubics.